"I met my boss on the beach," she said. "Where are you looking?" "My eyes are up here." I froze. The sun was high in the sky, casting golden light over the soft, white sands of the beach. Waves lapped gently at the shore, their rhythm soothing and almost hypnotic. Alex walked slowly along the water's edge, feeling the warm sand squish between his toes. It was rare for him to have a day completely free from the lab. For weeks, his schedule had been packed with experiments, data reports, and meetings with supervisors who seemed to expect perfect results at all times. Today, however, was different. Today, he had promised himself, he would relax. He kicked at a small seashell and smiled to himself. The shells on this planet were unlike anything he had seen on Earth. Some shimmered with soft, iridescent colors, while others glowed faintly in the sunlight. He bent down to pick one up, admiring its smooth surface. The colony's scientists often said that the ocean life here was almost magical, and Alex had to admit, standing on this quiet beach, it was easy to believe. Alex was so absorbed in examining the shell that he did not immediately notice the figure approaching from the other end of the beach. At first, he thought it was just another tourist or researcher out for a walk. Then, as the figure drew closer, his stomach sank. It was her, Dr. Selene Kale, his boss. Alex froze. She was walking with the confident, measured steps that made her so formidable in the lab. Yet today, her hair was loose, blowing in the gentle breeze, and she wore a simple beach outfit instead of her usual lab coat and professional attire. For a moment, Alex couldn't believe his eyes. He had spent months working under her sharp gaze, always careful not to make mistakes, and now she was just here on a beach, almost ordinary. He blinked, trying to focus. The words she had spoken in the lab replayed in his mind. "Alex, attention to detail is everything." He had obeyed that advice countless times, meticulously checking experiments, noting every small change and avoiding any slip-ups. And now all he could do was stare like a schoolboy caught off guard. Then she noticed him, her eyes sharp and intelligent fixed on his, and with a small, amused lift of her brow, she said something that made him freeze even more. "Where are you looking?" "My eyes are up here." Alex's face burned. He had meant no disrespect, of course. He had been admiring the beach, the ocean, even the alien shells, but somehow his gaze had betrayed him. He stammered, feeling completely out of words. I mean, he started, then stopped. Nothing sounded right. Every sentence felt clumsy. He wished he could just melt into the sand and disappear. Selene raised one eyebrow, but there was no anger in her voice. Instead, there was a hint of amusement, a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Relax, Alex," she said, her tone lighter than he expected. "It's just the beach. You can look at the world around you without fear of a lecture." Alex's mind struggled to catch up. Relax, at the beach, with her standing right there. He nodded quickly, embarrassed but relieved that she was not scolding him. I was just," he started again, but he trailed off, unsure what to say. His brain felt like it had short-circuited. Selene tilted her head slightly, studying him as if she were analyzing a strange new specimen. "You look like a deer caught in headlights," she said with a teasing smile. "Don't worry, I can handle a little human awkwardness." Alex laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't expect to see anyone here." "Especially me," Selene added, and Alex noticed her smile widen just a little. It wasn't often that she smiled like this, openly, without any formality or authority attached. For a few moments they walked in silence along the shore, the sound of the waves filling the gap. Alex tried to calm his racing heart. This was not a usual meeting at the lab. Here, there were no reports to write, no experiments to monitor, no deadlines looming. Just the sun, the sea, and the soft wind. "Are you enjoying the colony?" Selene asked after a while, breaking the silence. Alex nodded. "Yeah, it's amazing. The ocean is different from anything I expected. The creatures, the tides, it's beautiful." Selene glanced at the water, her eyes following the shimmering waves. It is. I sometimes forget how lucky we are to witness it firsthand. Most humans will never see a sea like this. They'll read about it in data files or see holograms, but nothing compares to standing here, feeling it with your own senses. Alex found himself nodding again, struck by her words. He had always admired her intelligence and dedication at work, but hearing her speak so personally about the ocean, so passionately, made him see a different side of her. You know, she continued, the first time I came here I almost missed everything because I was too busy trying to record every detail for research. I didn't stop to just look. She smiled softly. Sometimes you need to forget the reports and the schedules and just observe. Alex smiled. I'll try to remember that. They walked further along the beach, passing strange, glowing plants that thrived on the sand, their bioluminescence faint under the bright sunlight. Small, translucent creatures scuttled across the shore, disappearing when they sensed movement. Alex pointed at one, excited. Look at that, it's invisible until it moves. Selene crouched down, observing the tiny creature. Fascinating, she murmured. Its camouflage is incredible. Humans would have a hard time noticing it in the water. Alex grinned. He felt a spark of excitement. Here was something he understood, something he could contribute to the conversation. Maybe it uses some sort of light refraction to blend in, he suggested, like how some Earth animals do but adapted to this environment. Selene looked at him, impressed. Not a bad hypothesis. You might be onto something. I'd like to see you test that later. Alex felt a small thrill of pride. Working with Selene in the lab had always been intense. She expected precision, innovation, perfection. But here, on the beach, it felt different, less intimidating. He could think, suggest, and even make mistakes without fear of harsh judgment. They continued walking, and soon the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Selene asked about his favorite Earth foods, his hobbies, even the oddest memories from his childhood. Alex found himself laughing more than he had in weeks. The waves crashed gently, the sun warmed his skin, and for the first time in a long while, work and stress felt distant. Eventually, they reached a shallow tide pool filled with small, luminescent creatures. Alex knelt to examine them, fascinated by the way the tiny organisms moved in patterns that seemed almost deliberate. Selene crouched beside him, pointing at one. See that? It's communicating. Not with words, of course, but patterns. I've been studying it for weeks. Its movements are precise, almost like it's signaling to the others. Alex's eyes widened. That's incredible. It's alive in a way we can't fully understand yet. Selene nodded. Exactly, and it reminds me why humans are remarkable. We look at patterns, we observe, we wonder. Even in a world full of things we don't fully understand, we find ways to make sense of them. And sometimes, the simplest observations lead to the greatest discoveries. Alex looked at her, amazed by the insight in her words. Here, away from the lab, he saw a new side of Selene, one that appreciated the beauty of the unknown and valued curiosity as much as precision. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Alex realized something important. Meeting his boss here on this strange, distant beach was not something he had expected, but it was an encounter he would never forget. The awkwardness, the laughter, the shared observations, it all felt like the start of something new. He glanced at Selene, who was now standing and looking out at the glowing waves. He wanted to say something clever, something that would make her smile again, but all he could do was nod and whisper, "Thank you for showing me this." Selene looked over her shoulder and gave him a small, approving nod. "Don't thank me yet. The day is still young. There's a lot more to see and maybe a little challenge for you too." Alex's heart raced. A challenge at the beach with his boss. He didn't know what to expect, but he felt a rush of excitement. Whatever it was, he knew one thing for certain. today was not a day for work or deadlines. It was a day for discovery, laughter, and perhaps, just perhaps, human ingenuity shining in a way that only humans could make it. The tide had begun to shift, drawing back to reveal shallow pools of water scattered across the beach like mirrors reflecting the sky. Alex followed Dr. Selene Kale as she walked confidently toward one of these pools, her bare feet leaving neat impressions in the wet sand. Alex tried to match her stride but felt self-conscious. Each step reminded him that he wasn't just on any beach. He was on a colony on an alien world, and his usually steady composure seemed to have abandoned him entirely. He stole glances at Selene, noticing details he had never observed before: the subtle curve of her smile, the way her eyes caught the sunlight, and the quiet confidence in her movements. He reminded himself firmly, focus on the discovery, not the boss. Selene knelt beside a shallow tide pool and gestured for Alex to join her. The pool was alive with movement. Tiny, glowing creatures swirled in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, creating miniature whirlpools in the shallow water. The glow of the creatures changed as they moved, from a soft blue to a delicate green, casting an ethereal light on the surrounding sand. "See them?" Selene asked, her voice calm but charged with excitement. "They're not just moving randomly, they're communicating. Look at the patterns. Do you notice the repetition?" Alex crouched down, leaning close to the water. At first, the movement seemed chaotic, like tiny sparks dancing without direction. But as he watched, he began to see a rhythm. Certain clusters moved together, spinning in unison, then breaking apart before regrouping. "It's like a dance," Alex whispered. "Or like a signal." Selene's eyes lit up. "Exactly. You're seeing the same thing I see. Human observation is remarkable." "You noticed the pattern almost immediately." Alex felt a surge of pride. Being recognized for something other than technical skill, for simply seeing, made his chest swell. He realized that despite the advanced technology at their disposal, drones, scanners, and AI assistants, some things could only be understood through the human eye, through patience and curiosity. Selene handed him a small, translucent device, shaped like a handheld magnifier. "Use this, observe carefully, take note of how the clusters interact." Alex held it gingerly, careful not to drop it. As he focused on the creatures, he began to notice subtleties he had missed before: tiny pauses, sudden accelerations, and the way light seemed to travel from one cluster to another. His mind raced with possibilities. Were they warning each other of danger? Or were they creating patterns for reproduction? Selene watched him quietly, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "You know, when I first studied these creatures, I tried every tool in the lab. Cameras, sensors, everything. But none of it helped. It wasn't until I slowed down and watched, really watched, that I began to understand them. And humans have a unique ability to do that." Alex nodded, absorbed in the task. He felt the nervousness of the morning melt away. Here on this alien beach, with the sun warming his back and the sound of the waves in his ears, he felt capable. Not just a junior scientist under a demanding boss, but a human being capable of discovery, insight, and imagination. After several minutes, Selene spoke again. "Now here's a little challenge for you." She gestured to a particularly dense cluster of glowing creatures near the center of the pool. "Identify the leader." Alex frowned. "The leader?" "Yes. One of these organisms guides the others. It sends signals that the rest follow." "Can you find it?" He studied the movements, focusing intently. At first, it seemed impossible. The creatures moved too quickly, too fluidly, and there were too many of them. He felt a familiar pang of frustration. This was exactly the kind of problem that made him doubt himself in the lab. But then he remembered Selene's words: humans observe, humans imagine, humans create solutions. He shifted his gaze slightly, following one small cluster that always seemed to align first before the others. Gradually, a pattern emerged. A slightly larger creature, with a brighter glow, moved in subtle ways that the others mirrored almost instantaneously. "That one," he said finally, pointing. "The brighter one. It moves first and the rest follow." Seleni's eyes widened in approval. "Very good, Alex. Most people miss that entirely. You notice the subtle differences. That's human ingenuity seeing what others cannot. Even on a planet with life forms that are completely alien, our ability to observe and reason gives us an edge." Alex felt a thrill of accomplishment. For the first time, he realized that being human in this strange, alien environment was an advantage. It wasn't about strength, speed, or technology. It was about curiosity, patience, and creativity. "Not bad for a morning walk," Selene said, her tone teasing but proud. Alex laughed a little awkwardly. "I guess I'm learning from the best." Selene shrugged, though a small smile lingered on her face. "Maybe, but don't forget the creatures themselves are unpredictable. The real challenge isn't finding the leader, it's understanding why it leads and how we can use that knowledge." Alex's curiosity surged. "You mean like understanding their communication patterns, predicting behavior?" "Exactly." Selene's eyes glinted with excitement. "And that's where humans truly shine. We don't just record data. We interpret it, imagine possibilities, and test hypotheses. Even in a world of alien life, our minds remain uniquely capable." The afternoon passed quickly. They moved from tide pool to tide pool, observing tiny glowing creatures, examining unusual algae that changed color with the sunlight, and noting patterns in the sand that seemed to react to subtle movements in the water. Alex was completely absorbed. He forgot about his nerves, his worries, even the awkward encounter from earlier. Here, he was learning, exploring, and, most importantly, feeling like a true scientist. At one point, a small wave lapped over the edge of a pool, scattering the tiny creatures momentarily. Alex instinctively leaned forward to protect them, his hands hovering over the water. Selene laughed quietly. "Careful. They're resilient. And so are we as humans. Sometimes we overprotect, but other times careful observation is exactly what's needed." Alex nodded, taking in her words. She wasn't just teaching him about alien life. She was teaching him about life itself, about how humans approach the unknown. As the sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the beach, Selene finally stood and stretched. "We should head back soon, but remember this, curiosity is never wasted. Every observation, every question brings us closer to understanding. And humans, we have a way of seeing things that nothing else can replicate." Alex looked at her, admiration mixing with excitement. "I'll remember, thank you, Selene." She gave a small nod, then looked back at the water. "The ocean holds many secrets, Alex. Some of them we will never fully understand. But that doesn't mean we stop trying. And humans never stop. That's our advantage." For a moment, Alex just watched the waves, letting her words sink in. He realized she was right. Even here, on a distant planet, surrounded by life that was completely alien, human qualities, curiosity, creativity, patience, were the most powerful tools they had. Selene turned to him with a smile. "Tomorrow, we'll try something more challenging, something that requires you to use not just your eyes but your mind in a way you might not expect." Alex's heart raced. "A challenge?" "Yes," Selene said, eyes twinkling. "And it's not going to be easy, but I think you're ready." As they walked back toward the colony, the sun sinking lower in the sky and painting the clouds in pink and gold, Alex felt a new sense of purpose. This wasn't just a day at the beach. It was the beginning of a journey where human ingenuity, observation, and courage would be tested in ways he had never imagined. And for the first time, he didn't feel nervous. He felt capable, excited, ready. The alien ocean stretched endlessly before them, glowing faintly in the early evening light. Alex realized that this world, with all its mysteries and wonders, was a place where humans could shine. Not through technology alone, not through power or authority, but simply by being human, curious, observant, and fearless in the face of the unknown. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that tomorrow's challenge would show him just how much humans could accomplish, even when surrounded by things that seemed impossible. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the horizon, spilling pale gold across the alien beach. A thin mist hovered above the water, giving the shore a soft, otherworldly glow. Alex awoke with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today, Selene had promised a challenge, and he didn't know what it would be. He dressed quickly, pulling on light clothing suitable for the warm morning air, and made his way to the edge of the colony where Selene was already waiting. She stood tall, looking out at the waves as if she were listening to something invisible in the water. When she turned and saw him, she gave a brief nod. "Ready, Alex?" she asked. Alex swallowed hard. "I think so." Selene gestured toward a section of the shallow beach where the water shimmered in strange patterns. "Your challenge today is simple to state but difficult to achieve. You need to locate and track the silver currents." Alex frowned. "Silver currents?" Selene's lips curved into a small smile. "They are a species of alien aquatic creatures that are nearly invisible to the naked eye. They move in coordinated patterns, creating trails of light that shimmer briefly before fading. They are intelligent, adaptive, and elusive. No machine has reliably tracked them. Humans can, if they pay attention." Alex's pulse quickened. He had studied the creatures in theory before, read Selene's notes, and even observed a few in the tide pools yesterday. But following them in open water was another matter entirely. "Your task is to follow a current long enough to determine its direction and intent," Selene explained. "Where it comes from, where it goes, and why it moves the way it does. Can you do it?" Alex nodded, feeling a mix of determination and apprehension. "I'll try." Selene handed him a small handheld device, a magnifying scanner, though she added quickly, "Use it only if you must. The creatures respond to technology differently than to human observation. Your best tool is your mind." Alex took a deep breath and stepped toward the water. The shallow waves lapped gently at his ankles. For a moment he felt uncertain. How could he follow something that seemed almost invisible? But then he remembered Selene's words from yesterday: observe, imagine, predict. He scanned the water carefully, watching for the faintest glimmers of light. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a thin, silvery line flickered across the surface. He followed it with his eyes, moving as quietly as he could. The line twisted and turned, shifting with the currents, and Alex realized he had to anticipate its movements rather than simply chase it. Minutes passed. He felt a thrill with every small flash of light. Each time he thought he had lost the current, it would reappear, and he would adjust his position accordingly. He noticed patterns emerging. The currents preferred certain pathways through the water, avoiding obstacles and following subtle gradients in the sand below. Selene watched from the shore, arms crossed, her expression serious but encouraging. "Notice the rhythm," she called out. "There's a method to their motion. Don't just follow blindly. Think ahead." Alex concentrated, letting his mind map the movements in real time. He began to see the currents as a group, almost like a school of fish, moving with purpose. He noted pauses, sudden accelerations, and shifts in direction. Each observation gave him a small insight, and he adjusted his movements accordingly. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Alex was completely absorbed. The sun climbed higher, casting sparkling reflections across the surface of the water. Sweat dripped down his back, but he barely noticed. This was more than a challenge. It was a test of focus, patience, and human ingenuity. Then, as he followed a particularly bright current, something extraordinary happened. The line of light split, forming intricate shapes that seemed to pulse in a pattern. Alex crouched lower to the water, fascinated. It was as if the currents were communicating, sending a message through motion and light. Selene approached quietly, her footsteps soft in the sand. "Do you see it?" she asked. Alex nodded, eyes wide. It's like a message. I think they're signaling something. Seleni's smile widened. Exactly. Most humans would miss it entirely. But you're observing, interpreting, imagining. That's what makes humans exceptional. We can see patterns where others see chaos. Alex felt a surge of pride. Here he was, on an alien beach, tracking creatures that had never been fully understood and making sense of their behavior. He realized that his human ability to combine observation with imagination was giving him an edge no machine could replicate. He decided to test a hypothesis. Using a small, reflective shell he had picked up earlier, he angled it to catch the sunlight and create a thin beam across the water. The currents reacted immediately, adjusting their paths as if acknowledging his presence. Seleni's laughter echoed softly from the shore. "Clever," she said. "You're not just observing, you're interacting. That's exactly what I hoped you'd do." Encouraged, Alex continued, carefully moving the shell to guide the currents without startling them. Gradually, he noticed that the currents were leading him toward a small inlet further down the beach, a place where the water was calmer and the patterns more complex. "This is it," he whispered, excitement mixing with awe. "This is where they come from." Selene nodded. "Good. Now watch closely. The patterns here are a key to understanding their behavior. Can you determine why they move this way?" Alex studied the inlet. Tiny, luminescent creatures moved in coordinated arcs, creating a mosaic of light across the water. After several minutes, he noticed a pattern. The currents were responding to environmental changes, the movement of the water, the shape of the sand, even the faint shadows of larger creatures moving above. "They're adapting," he said finally. "They're reacting to everything around them. It's not random, it's intelligence." Selene's eyes gleamed. "Exactly. And that's why humans are remarkable. We don't just see, we think, we predict, we understand. And sometimes, we can use that understanding to learn things even the most advanced technology cannot reveal." Alex felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond simple success. He had followed the silver currents, observed their behavior, and begun to understand their intelligence, all using nothing more than patience, imagination, and careful observation. He realized that being human on this alien world was a powerful advantage. For the next few hours, Alex continued to study the currents, noting subtle changes, mapping their movements, and testing his hypotheses. Selene offered guidance only occasionally, allowing him to struggle, observe, and learn on his own. He discovered patterns in the currents that even he hadn't expected, the way they responded to light, to sound, and to small vibrations in the sand. Finally, as the sun began to sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Alex sat back on the sand, exhausted but exhilarated. He had done it. He had completed the challenge, not with technology or brute force, but with human ingenuity and careful observation. Selene approached and clapped him on the shoulder. "Well done, Alex. You've proven something important today. Even on an alien planet surrounded by life that is completely foreign, humans have a unique ability to understand, adapt, and innovate. That's our strength. That's why we thrive." Alex smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride. He realized that the morning's nervousness, the awkward encounter, and even the challenge itself had all led him to this moment, a moment where he understood the value of his own human qualities. Selene stood beside him, looking out at the shimmering water. "Remember this, Alex," she said softly. "No matter where humans go, no matter how alien the world, we have a way of seeing, understanding, and interacting that is entirely our own. That's something no machine, no alien, and no challenge can take away." Alex nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Tomorrow there would be new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities to test his skills. But for now, he allowed himself to enjoy the simple joy of understanding, of seeing patterns where others saw only chaos, and of knowing that being human was not a limitation, it was a gift. As the last rays of sunlight reflected off the water, he looked at Selene and grinned. "So what's the next challenge?" Selene laughed, a warm, encouraging sound that made Alex feel lighter than he had in weeks. "Tomorrow you'll find out, but be ready. It won't just be about observation this time. You'll need to think, plan, and act. And I have no doubt that humans, especially you, are up to the task." Alex watched the waves, glowing faintly in the dimming light, and felt a rush of excitement. The silver currents had been a test, a lesson, and a thrill all at once, but he knew this was only the beginning. There was a whole world of mysteries out there, waiting to be discovered, and he felt ready to face them, not as a junior scientist under a strict boss, but as a human, capable, curious, and creative. The next day, Alex awoke to a soft hum of excitement. The sky was painted in gentle shades of lavender and rose as the twin suns of the colony rose slowly over the horizon. He could hear the faint rush of waves outside his window, and he knew that today would be different. Yesterday's challenge had tested his observation skills, and today, Selene had promised something more complex, something that would require not only his eyes but his mind. He dressed quickly, pulling on lightweight clothes and a sun hat to protect against the alien sun. He grabbed a small notebook and pen, unsure whether he would need to take notes, but knowing he always felt more prepared when he did. As he walked toward the beach, he could see Selene standing near the edge of the water, scanning the horizon. Her posture was calm, confident, almost regal as she watched the waves. "Good morning, Alex," she said without turning. "Ready for today's lesson?" "I think so," Alex replied, a mix of anticipation and nerves bubbling in his stomach. Selene smiled faintly. "Today, we're going to follow the flow of the tide in a different way. You will observe, predict, and make decisions based on the patterns you see. But there's a twist. The creatures we observed yesterday are only part of the story." Alex frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Selene gestured toward the shoreline where faint glimmers of light danced just beneath the surface. "Yesterday, you followed the silver currents. Today, we'll see how they interact with other life in the ocean. The patterns will be more complex, the signals less obvious. You'll need to use everything you learned and perhaps think of things in a way you haven't before." Alex's heart raced. The silver currents had already been a challenge, testing his observation skills and patience. Today, Selene was asking him to combine what he knew with reasoning and creativity. The thought of it was intimidating, but exhilarating. They waded into the shallow water, feeling the gentle pull of the tides around their ankles. Alex glanced at Selene, who moved with effortless confidence. Watching her, he realized that her calm exterior hid a mind constantly analyzing, predicting, and understanding. She was not just observing the water, she was reading it, interpreting every ripple, shadow, and flicker of light. Selene motioned for him to kneel. "Look closely, Alex. The creatures are everywhere, not just in the currents. The glowing patterns you saw yesterday are part of a larger system. The movements, the flashes of light, the tiny pauses, they all interact. Watch carefully. Try to see the connections." Alex crouched beside her, letting his eyes adjust to the subtle luminescence in the water. At first, it was overwhelming. Dozens of tiny, glowing creatures darted in every direction. Patterns overlapped and shifted, creating an intricate web of motion that seemed impossible to decode. He closed his eyes briefly, taking a deep breath. Then, opening them, he tried to focus, just as Selene had taught him. He began to separate the movements into groups in his mind, noting which clusters reacted to the currents and which moved independently. Slowly, a picture began to form. Certain groups followed consistent paths, while others responded to changes in the water, avoiding obstacles and coordinating their movements with remarkable precision. "They're communicating," he whispered, "not just in small clusters but as a whole system." "They're like a city," Selene nodded approvingly. "Exactly, and humans have a unique ability to recognize patterns in complexity. Machines can track motion, but they cannot interpret meaning in the same way we can. That's why we study them with our minds, not just our tools. Alex felt a surge of excitement. He realized that what they were observing wasn't just movement, it was intelligence, behavior, and interaction. He began to make small predictions, noting which clusters would shift next and how they would respond to environmental changes. Each time his prediction was correct, he felt a thrill of accomplishment. Then something unexpected happened. A larger current moved through the shallows, carrying with it a faint, shimmering glow. It interacted with the smaller currents, causing them to rearrange their patterns. Alex noticed subtle shifts in timing and spacing, movements that suggested coordination at a higher level. "This is incredible," he murmured. "It's like a conversation but in light and motion instead of words." Selene smiled. "That's a perfect way to describe it. And now, Alex, your task is to interpret that conversation. What message do you think they are sending? What are they reacting to?" Alex studied the currents intently. He noticed that the larger current seemed to guide the smaller ones toward a particular area where the water was calmer, and shadows of unusual formations below the surface suggested a hidden reef or structure. He hypothesized that the creatures were leading each other to safety, or perhaps toward a communal gathering point. "I think they're leading each other to a shelter," he said finally. "Something in the water is changing and they're adapting. They're protecting themselves while maintaining coordination." Selene's eyes sparkled with approval. "Excellent. You're not just observing, you're interpreting, predicting, and understanding. That's the human advantage. Our ability to combine perception with imagination allows us to see meaning where others see chaos." Encouraged, Alex continued his careful observation. He noted how some clusters slowed, some accelerated, and others changed direction abruptly. He realized that the creatures responded to multiple factors simultaneously: light, movement, water pressure, and even faint vibrations from nearby objects. By considering all these elements together, he began to anticipate their next moves. Hours passed as they waded through the shallow waters, Alex adjusting his observations and predictions in real time. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Every correct prediction, every insight gained, reinforced the idea that human curiosity, ingenuity, and patience were powerful tools, even on an alien world. Finally, the patterns began to converge, forming a large, luminous swirl around a central point in the water. Alex knelt closer, his eyes wide with wonder. The central area pulsed gently, almost as if it were alive, and the smaller currents orbited it in perfect harmony. "Look at that," he breathed. "It's beautiful. It's like a living diagram showing their structure and intelligence." Selene crouched beside him, her eyes reflecting the glowing patterns. "Yes, Alex, and notice something important. The system is stable because of cooperation. No single creature dominates. The intelligence is collective, distributed, and humans have a similar advantage. Our strength lies in our ability to work together, to share knowledge, to build understanding from many perspectives." Alex nodded, feeling the truth of her words resonate deeply. Watching the currents, observing their coordination, and interpreting their behavior had shown him something profound, not just about the creatures, but about humans themselves. As the sun reached its highest point, casting sparkling reflections across the water, Selene finally signaled that they should return to the shore. Alex followed reluctantly, wishing he could stay longer in the mesmerizing patterns of light and motion. On the sand, Selene handed him a fresh water flask. "You've done very well today, Alex. What you've learned is more than just about the creatures. It's about observation, reasoning, and patience. These qualities define humans and set us apart. Even in a world filled with intelligence we do not fully understand, we have the capacity to see, think, and act in ways no other species can." Alex took a long drink, feeling both tired and exhilarated. He realized that he had grown in ways he hadn't expected. The challenges Selene set were not just tests, they were lessons in human potential. Selene continued, "Tomorrow will be even more challenging. You will need to not only observe and interpret but also make decisions that affect outcomes. The lessons of today will guide you, but the test will be your own initiative, creativity, and judgment." "Are you ready for that?" Alex smiled, a mix of excitement and determination in his eyes. "I think so. Yesterday was about observation. Today was about understanding. Tomorrow, I'll do my best to act on that knowledge." Selene's approving nod was all the encouragement he needed. The bond of respect between them had grown, built on shared discovery, learning, and recognition of human potential. She no longer appeared as just a boss. She was a mentor, a guide, and a partner in exploration. As the day ended and the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the sand, Alex sat and watched the faint glow of the alien ocean. He reflected on what he had learned, the power of observation, the thrill of discovery, and the unique qualities that made humans exceptional. The beach was quiet now, save for the gentle rush of waves. But in the shimmering currents of the water, Alex saw lessons, patterns, and possibilities. He felt ready more than ever for the challenges ahead. And he understood that human ingenuity, patience, and curiosity were not just tools. They were strengths that could illuminate even the most complex mysteries of the universe. As darkness fell and the first stars of the colony's night sky appeared, Alex realized that this journey was far from over. There were more patterns to observe, more mysteries to solve, and more lessons to learn. But he felt confident that whatever came next, he and humans like him had the ability to meet it head-on, to shine brightly, and to make a difference in ways only humans could. The sun rose slowly over the alien horizon, painting the sky in deep golds and soft purples. The beach was quiet, except for the gentle lap of waves against the shore. Alex woke with a sense of anticipation unlike any he had ever felt. Today was the final part of his series of lessons with Selene, a day that promised to combine observation, reasoning, and decisive action. He dressed quickly, careful not to forget his notebook, the small magnifying device, and a reflective shell he had learned to use to interact with the alien currents. Today, Selene had hinted, he would need to act on what he had learned, not just watch. As he approached the beach, he spotted Selene standing near the water. She looked out at the ocean, her silhouette strong against the rising sun. When she turned, a small smile played on her lips. "Ready, Alex?" Alex nodded, though his chest raced with excitement. "Yes. I think I'm ready." Selene gestured toward the shallow water where faint glimmers of movement shimmered. "Today, you'll combine all the lessons of the past 2 days. You'll observe, interpret, and then act. You'll make decisions that influence outcomes, not just your understanding. Can you handle that?" Alex took a deep breath. "I'll do my best." "Good," Selene said. "Then let's begin." They waded into the water together. Alex noticed immediately that the patterns of the glowing currents were more complex than ever. The smaller clusters moved in intricate, interdependent motions, while larger currents shifted unpredictably, reacting to subtle changes in the environment. The behavior of the currents suggested intelligence on a scale far beyond what Alex had seen before. "Your task," Selene explained, "is to guide these creatures safely toward the sheltered inlet without disturbing their natural patterns. You must anticipate obstacles, adjust to environmental changes, and make choices based on observation and reasoning. Your actions will have an impact, but only if you act wisely." Alex's eyes widened. I have to influence them," Selene nodded. "Not with force, not with coercion. Use observation, understanding, and gentle intervention. Think of it as a conversation rather than control." Alex felt a thrill of challenge. He knelt by the edge of a pool and focused, taking in every movement, every flash of light. The currents were delicate, intelligent, and adaptive. He realized that his human skills, curiosity, patience, and reasoning were exactly what he needed. Machines could record, track, and analyze, but only humans could interpret and respond with creativity. He began by using his reflective shell to direct a faint beam of sunlight across the water. The currents responded subtly, adjusting their positions without breaking their patterns. Alex carefully noted their reactions, adjusting the beam to guide them along a safe path. Each small success filled him with confidence. Selene watched silently, occasionally offering hints or pointing out subtleties in the current's behavior. Alex realized that her guidance was not about giving answers. It was about teaching him to rely on his own mind, to trust his judgment, and to act decisively. Hours passed as Alex moved through the water, anticipating the movements of the currents, adjusting their paths, and solving small challenges. Rocks, sudden waves, and hidden formations required him to think quickly and creatively. He felt fully alive, fully human in a way that was exhilarating. Every decision mattered, every observation was valuable, and every action tested his ingenuity. At one point, a large current shifted suddenly toward a cluster of jagged rocks. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He quickly angled his reflective shell, guiding the current away without breaking its rhythm. The creatures responded perfectly, and Alex felt a surge of pride. He realized that being human on this alien world wasn't just an advantage, it was a responsibility. His actions could have consequences, but also the power to make a positive impact. Selene's voice broke his focus. Notice how the currents react not just to light but to movement, pressure, and environmental changes. Humans have an ability to synthesize all these factors at once. That's our strength. That's why we thrive. Alex nodded, sweat dripping from his forehead but his mind sharp and alert. He continued to guide the currents, combining careful observation with precise, thoughtful action. Each success reinforced his confidence and deepened his understanding of the alien ecosystem. By midday, the currents began converging toward the sheltered inlet. Alex noticed that some clusters hesitated, responding to subtle changes in water temperature and depth. He paused, analyzing the patterns, and made careful adjustments with his reflective shell. Slowly, methodically, he guided the final clusters safely into the inlet. He straightened and took a deep breath, feeling a wave of relief and exhilaration. He had completed the task. He had observed, interpreted, and acted successfully. He had relied not on technology or brute force but on human creativity, curiosity, and patience. Selene approached, her expression a mixture of pride and admiration. "Well done, Alex. You've demonstrated what humans are capable of. Observation, reasoning, and action combined create results that machines, algorithms, or even instinct alone cannot achieve. This is the essence of human potential." Alex felt a warmth in his chest. The past 3 days of challenges had taught him more than any lab work ever could. He had discovered not just the intelligence of alien creatures, but the remarkable qualities inherent in humans. Creativity, patience, adaptability, and cooperation. These were the tools that made humans unique. Selene gestured toward the glowing inlet. "Look at what you've achieved. You didn't just follow instructions. You interacted with a complex living system and helped it thrive. That is human ingenuity in action." Alex knelt beside the water, watching the shimmering patterns as the currents settled into their natural rhythm. The beauty and complexity of the scene filled him with awe. He realized that humans could contribute meaningfully to any world, no matter how alien, because of their ability to observe, think, and act with purpose. For a moment, silence hung between them, filled only by the gentle sounds of the ocean. Then Selene spoke softly. "Do you understand now why I brought you here? It's not just about science. It's about recognizing potential, your potential, and the potential of humans in general." Alex nodded. "I think I do." Humans, we can adapt, create, and understand in ways that no technology or alien intelligence can fully replicate. And curiosity, patience, observation, these are our tools. Selene smiled. Exactly. And remember, Alex, these tools are more powerful when combined with cooperation. Humans thrive not just as individuals but as a species capable of working together, sharing knowledge, and solving problems beyond the reach of any one person. Alex felt a swell of gratitude. He looked at Selene with newfound respect. She had pushed him, guided him, and challenged him to see the power in his own human qualities. He realized that he no longer saw her as just a strict, intimidating boss. She was a mentor, a guide, and a partner in discovery. As the twin suns began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the glowing water, Alex and Selene walked back toward the shore. The currents shimmered faintly in the fading light, a living reminder of the lessons he had learned. Tomorrow, Selene said, you will face new challenges, new mysteries, and new opportunities. But you are ready. Today has proven that human ingenuity, observation, and reasoning can meet even the most complex tests. Never forget that, Alex. Humans are capable of greatness. Alex smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. He realized that the lessons of the beach, the currents, and Selene's guidance extended far beyond science. They were about life, about potential, and about the human spirit. As darkness fell and the first stars of the colony's night sky appeared, Alex sat quietly on the sand, reflecting on the past days. He thought about the awkward encounter on the first morning, the thrill of following the silver currents, the intricate patterns of the glowing creatures, and the final challenge of guiding them safely. Each experience had taught him something new, about the alien world, about observation and reasoning, and most importantly, about himself. He realized that being human was more than just a matter of biology. It was curiosity, creativity, and courage. It was the ability to adapt, to learn, and to act with purpose. And it was the ability to make connections between ideas, between actions, and even between individuals. Selene joined him quietly, sitting on the sand beside him. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. Alex smiled. "I'm thinking about how amazing humans are, and about how much more we can do, not just on this planet but anywhere we go. We have the ability to observe, to understand, to adapt, and to make a difference." Selene nodded, her eyes reflecting the faint glow of the water. "Exactly. And remember, Alex, that every challenge you face, every mystery you encounter, is an opportunity to apply those qualities. Humans are not just survivors, they are innovators, problem solvers, and explorers. And that is something to be proud of." Alex felt a surge of determination. He looked out at the glowing waves, the shimmering currents, and the vast horizon beyond. He knew that whatever the future held, alien worlds, unknown species, or unexpected challenges, humans had the tools to thrive, and he was ready to face it all. As the night deepened and the colony's lights twinkled faintly in the distance, Alex stood, feeling a sense of completion and new beginnings at the same time. He had learned, he had acted, and he had grown. He understood now that the journey of discovery was ongoing, and that the potential of humans was limitless. Selene stood beside him, silent but approving. For the first time, Alex felt that the awkward, nervous, self-conscious young scientist of 3 days ago had transformed into someone who could meet challenges, embrace discovery, and trust in the power of being human. And as they walked back to the colony together, the ocean glowing softly behind them, Alex knew that the lessons of the beach, the currents, and the silver currents would stay with him forever. They were a reminder that human ingenuity, curiosity, and perseverance were not just traits. They were strengths capable of shaping the universe itself. And somewhere deep inside, he smiled, knowing that this was only the beginning.